Hey everyone, Maria from the library. We're here with one of our panels for the MAPLD FanFest, and today we're going to be spotlighting women in podcasting. I have Shawn, Natasha, and Ashli here with me to talk a little bit about podcasting and what they like, and basically what their favorite fandoms are and how to get into podcasting and all that fun stuff. So if you guys want to take turns, if Shawn, if you want to go first, introduce yourself, talk a little about your podcast, and then we can just kind of maneuver around.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shawn, Fangirl S from the Fangirl Zone, in case you didn't notice that behind me. I started my podcast. I went solo about 4 years ago. I've been doing podcasting since 2013, 2012. It's been forever, it seems like. I got into podcasting because oh, this is an embarrassing story, but it's hilarious. My husband cracks up every time. I was at C2E2, and that's local here in Chicago, for those who may not know. Had an interview, or I'm sorry, not interview, had a chance to have an autograph with Sam Huntington.
Oh.
And I'm standing there in line, like no big deal. My husband's with me, and all of a sudden he looks over at me, he goes, "Don't freak out. He's just a guy." I'm like, okay. And we had like just eaten hot dogs or something. So I'm like making sure I don't have poppy seeds in my tea. And I get up there, and the whole time he just like, "Don't freak out, all right? Just don't freak out." What? So I get up there, and of course I freaked out. I'm like bawling. I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm not like this normally. I'm such a nerd." I couldn't even say my name. So, like, after that, I happened to be walking around, like, so ticked off at my husband for getting me so like, freaked out and embarrassed. I ran across a table, DVM, which is where I eventually met Ashli, too. And we were telling the story, and he's like, "Oh, my God, that'd make a great, like, intro for a podcast." And how, you were just fangirling over him. Now, fangirl is something, obviously, it's like everybody has something they fangirl over, so that's where Fangirl Zone ended up coming out of. And things I like, my big thing right now is Doctor Who, Harley Quinn. I have Walking Dead and Snoopy behind me too, but I love so many things, and books, which Natasha and I have talked about several.
Yes.
Book to screen, which hopefully we can rope Maria into one of those too, and we start bringing that back.
Yeah. All right. I have Natasha underneath me. Yeah. Want to go ahead? Yeah. I'm like, who do I have underneath me? Okay, Natasha, you want to go ahead?
So I'm Natasha Williams. I go by Natty Willie on social media. We started the Nerd Element. It was Kimberly who contacted me. We all are friends from San Diego Comic-Con. We all met, became friends, and she was like, "I wanted to start a YouTube channel," and that's where we started. But I was thinking bigger things, so I was like, "Okay, let's do a website. Let's do, let's do podcasting. Let's do everything under the sun." So we did do podcasting. We kind of branched out into different topics as far as podcasting is concerned. I think the most fun that I've had with podcasting is the live tweeting when we were discussing shows. So that was fun. But now we're taking a break. I do sometimes guest on Shawn's podcast, so you will hear me complaining and voicing my opinion on stuff. And also just, because I'm in school, so we're kind of like revamping and kind of like trying to do things differently. So thank you for having me. I'm glad that you, Shawn, thought of me in the Nerd Element as far as a voice. This is my first panel, so yeah. Yay. Start small.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm also a very good fan of books. That's my first love. And of course, I became a fandom of Marvel, the movies, TV, all that good stuff. And so it was just nice to talk to friends, and that was the core of our podcasting. We were just discussing our favorite shows among friends and movies and stuff like that. And so it just grew from there.
Nice. Ashli?
Hey, so I got started in podcasting think it was like 2011. No, okay. Well, I discovered podcasting in 2011-ish or 2010 because there was this show that I used to watch. It was called Flash Forward. It was on ABC. I think it only lasted like one season or whatever. And I found a podcast on that. And that was the DVM production empire now, but it was at the time the DVM podcast empire. Well, anyway, I started listening to that. The show got canceled, but then they ended up doing other podcasts too. So I started emailing in. And at one point I just like emailed in, I think it was on American Horror Story they were doing. Yeah. So I just kept emailing in, and finally they were like, hey, do you want to like do this? And I'm like, yeah. So the first one that I was involved with heavily was the Walking Dead podcast with them. Someone else took that over now, but I also did the last like season or two of the Game of Thrones podcast with them. And then now I'm not really doing a lot, but this is fun because I get to guest on here. So that's neat.
Thank you guys all for coming on, seriously. Like I said, this is a woman in podcasting, and I wanted you guys to be able to elevate your voices, advertise for the podcasters that you basically work for, and just talk about what you like. So we've talked about your subject areas, why you guys got into podcasting, how long you guys have been podcasting already. So my next question is, do you think that it's harder for women to get into podcasting? Is it easier for them when they have a podcast that has, you know, men involved with it? Do you think it's something that is more male oriented, the podcasting industry, or any type of like YouTube channels and things like that where you would do popular media? You guys, anybody can go ahead.
I don't feel like that so much with this as I do with other things in life. Like for this, I almost think that sometimes this could be more something for women, only because we, for the most part, like to talk more. We have like a lot of things to say. And so, but I mean, the thing is that the one that I was involved with, that I was more heavily involved with all this time, or that I have been involved with, is run by a male. But a lot of the people on there are female. I mean, you know, some of them have their own, like there's one friend of mine who does a podcast about like different tarot things, different like whatever. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think with just in general in our world, it's some man's world, you know? Yeah. So with a lot of things it is that way, but I haven't really felt like I've been turned down for things as far as this goes because I'm a woman, or it's been harder in that case. I haven't really felt like that myself.
No, I agree with Ashley. I feel like there's a place for us in podcasting. You can be small or you can be, you know, big. Now, maybe did it start that way? Probably not. But I mean, our voices, people want to hear our voices as much as anyone else's, especially even men. Like sometimes, yes, they're involved, but sometimes they want us to know, you know, to have like a woman's opinion on something, whether it's a fandom or what any kind of subject matter. So at least that's what,
to make it more well-rounded, kind of like an opinion.
Yeah, it makes it more well-rounded. And also, you know, now that, you know, diversity seems to be, you know, a thing now, it seems to be a trend. But at the same time, I feel like there is a place for everybody, including, you know, blacks, whites, whatever color under the sun. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of going the opposite of them. I feel like on a national stage, it is really more men that are out there, that you don't see so many of the female-led podcasts on the national stage, because unfortunately when you look at iTunes as one example for where you can listen to podcasts, like the top ones are almost exclusively male, and unfortunately it's also people who are already like in the entertainment industry or really high up in whatever profession they are. So it is a little bit harder, I think, for us to get our voice out there, trying to get on a bigger stage, but at the same time, we're able to do this. You know, it's 100% on us, and for us to get our voice out, us to try to be heard, and really push it all out. We have listeners, which is really weird when you look at your graphics, where everything, or no, sorry, not the graphics, stats, thank you, where everything's coming from. Like I'm really surprised we have listeners like in India and in Norway, and it's like we have people write in that English, I can't even talk, is not their first language.
That's cool.
And they write to us and they're like, oh, I never knew that. And weirdly, it's a lot of guys writing to us to talk about, you know, how great the show is. And they would have never even thought about like really watching this. They heard the podcast first and then decided to check out whatever TV show we're talking about, which I feel is like a big switch because like Natasha and Ashli had said, you know, really you're talking to your friends when you're doing a podcast and you're talking about like, this is what's on my mind and this is what I liked about the show or the book or yada yada. It seems like that's really, I guess, like an American way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have quote unquote fans from across the globe, it's just kind of makes you step back, even though we're not going to be like number one on all of these, you know, podcast charts anytime soon, because somehow I don't think the Nerdist is stepping away. But you know, it's still fun to be out there and do it all.
If I can get on the Nerdist, that would be awesome. Like that would be a step up. But you know, I mean, it's a goal. Or you know, even one of the other bigger platforms. I mean, that's one reason why I'm back in college, because I want to actually get into the industry, and that was part of the inspiration, because I was doing this. I was doing it grassroots style, and it's kind of like, well, I want to learn a little bit more.
Well, what were you studying?
Communications. So I want to be broad enough, but at the same time, you know, this is kind of where I want to be, like journalism, podcasting. Yeah, just
stuff like that.
Know. And I have my growth from the nerd element to thank for that. Because I feel like I would have done it before if, you know, I didn't. The way that I grew up, it's kind of like, you know, be more.
Yeah. I can totally understand that.
Yeah, and so that wasn't, I feel like that wasn't an option for me until I just did it for fun.
Pick something that you know is a for sure thing and stick with that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, I did it for fun, so now I just want to make it a career. So,
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like, it wasn't until like I had an experience to do my wrestling podcast with my husband, but I still wanted him to do it with me because I felt like how Shawn was saying, like, I felt like, especially in wrestling, males like opinion is, it doesn't even matter if you're on like a nerdist level, it's always heard of, you hear the male opinion. So I wanted to make sure I had him there to kind of like validate me in a way, but now it's becoming easier, and it's a new trend to have women voices, and they want to hear women's voices. They want to know how to write the storylines better. What do they want to see in women's wrestling? So just like in comics and things like that, you know, how can they write a female protagonist better? How they can make her the hero without having to be the victim? Things like that. You know, it has to come from a female's point, you know, perspective sometimes, because, you know, no offense to males, but sometimes they really don't get how we think, just like we don't get how they think, you know. So it is very, very nice to have female voices in the industry. So you guys are talking a little bit, well, Natasha had brought up her going to communications. How would one start doing a podcast? What would you suggest for them if they wanted to just say tomorrow they decided they read the Walking Dead series and they're like, you know what, I have a strong opinion about Abraham or Glenn and I want to talk about this on a podcast. Where would they start off? What would be your suggestions to them?
I would definitely, now that, you know, I've experienced it, if I could go back, I would definitely want to do something a little bit different, just have it more structured. Definitely figure out more research as far as platforms. Where would I want to host it? Do I want to do, because sometimes YouTube and podcasting kind of like mix together, because sometimes you can do a video show and still have the voices for a podcast, and just, you know, where do you want to start? What if it's specifically about The Walking Dead, do you want to just focus on The Walking Dead? Create like a plan. And do you want it just for yourself? Who's your audience is very important. So it's definitely easy with The Walking Dead because that's a topic that you like, that you want to talk about, and so you know that's who your audience is. But what if, I mean, you can't just talk about The Walking Dead if that's something that, if you love more than one thing, it's kind of like hard to say, okay, well, what do I want to talk about? So if Walking Dead wasn't like an example, you just said, I just feel like I want to voice my opinion on a lot of different topics. Who's your audience? And that's the important thing. Make sure you know who your audience is. And do your research. And if there are podcasts that maybe are on the similar vein, I mean, it's good to get, like an idea of how a format works, but you definitely want to put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
Because that makes you unique, and just, it makes you, and at your core, you want to it's kind of like you're pouring yourself into something and you're getting your voice out there, your real voice, not just, a persona.
Yeah.
So, I just think research is a little bit important, and just know who your audience is, and to research different platforms, and if, what you're comfortable with. I mean, and start slow. I mean, we're still, Shawn has gotten, I think, successful, and I think we've gotten a little bit success because we do press at different conventions and stuff, but you got to start small. So, and kind of grow, and definitely be well versed in social media, because social media can help you spread your platform for sure.
Yeah.
Social media is amazing for that. Yeah. Because you can like hashtag anything. Like you could literally take a video of yourself talking about like Glenn or Abraham from The Walking Dead, and literally hashtag their names, hashtag the show, hashtag everything. And that will reach, like, because I do that sometimes on my Instagram too for certain things. I'll put hashtags, and then I have like these people liking it who I'm like, they don't even follow me and I don't follow them, but they must have gone and looked at the tag.
Mm-hmm.
And, but again, like how I got involved in podcasting, that was, I found podcasts related to, like, you can find a Walking Dead podcast and then keep emailing them, keep communicating with them. Mm-hmm. Maybe get yourself like a guest spot on there at some point, so this way now people are hearing you, and because that's kind of how I started it too. It's kind of like getting your foot in the door, Yeah. Like how they say with acting too, it's like, well, get like a small little like guest role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then after that, it's like, oh, but you can have that on your resume now. So you tell people, hey, look, that was me. You can do that now with the podcast too. Be like, hey, here's the podcast I was on. See? And then you'll have more things to kind of go off of.
That's really, especially if we have some younger viewers here watching this. Instead of them putting X amount of dollars in video cameras and microphones, things like that, like you said, get a good microphone, guest star in a podcast, see how you feel about it, like get a guest spot to see if this is something you really want to do. Because a lot of times younger people are just like, I want to do this and I want to do this. And then they put so much energy in something and then it kind of falters, especially if you do it on your own. But I like your approach. I actually never really thought about the approach of doing it that way. That's actually a really neat way to do it, because it kind of gets you like experience, and it kind of sees if you really want to do something in that terms.
Well, and that's why I also mentioned like researching too. Like if you listen to other podcasting, you get an idea of what it could be like, and maybe you can get ideas as far as where you want to go with it for your own podcast, and maybe not copy again exactly, but yeah, there's a formality to it as well. And Shawn, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Well, and that way you're not jumping into the deep end holding a boulder.
Exactly.
You get to learn what works for you. If you realize, yes, I want to talk about all this, but you're not really able to like carry a whole show by yourself, okay, I'm going to need a co-host, or I'm not comfortable, 100% talking, and running the show, even if you have a co-host. When you're on a platform with a couple other people, it's a little easier because you can just kind of like start in the shallow end and kind of come into it and be like, okay,
bounce ideas.
All right.
Yeah.
This works. And then sometimes, because I know this has happened with Natasha when we've done some of the book to screens, it's like, you may not remember something specific that maybe the other person does, and it's like, oh my gosh, and then you suddenly light bulb and you start going off on a whole different tangent. It's like we chase the squirrels a lot on our podcast,
but those are fun.
Because it's like, okay, we got this, we're going this way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, but what did you remember this?
Well, I've done that too. I've been like podcasting episode, and all of a sudden I'm talking about the very end of the episode, and I'm like, oh wait, we didn't talk about the beginning yet. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get super excited, but it's a lot easier that way. And plus cross promotion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those are really great points. Yeah, we kind of talked about that. What kind of things you learned along the way. Is there any, Shawn, can you give any like names of different types of podcasting platforms that if somebody wants to look into, some sort of like any websites or any books you've ever read, anything like that, as far as who you kind of looked up to in the beginning?
Everything I've done has been like hands-on, and let's see if this works. I don't recommend that.
I'm totally like that too.
I totally would look into different things, research it first, because I was like so super excited. I just jumped in. But when I started, like I said, I was with DBM, so I wasn't doing it myself. And then when I went solo, I have gone from Squarespace to, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Podbean. There was another one in there that I'm blanking on. I'm on Castos now, but that's because we created a network, because we currently have about 30 different shows. So they all have like their own feed that way. If you're doing one specific one and you're not looking to spend a lot of money, there are several platforms out there that have even low cost or free podcast hosting. So
cool.
It totally depends on how much you're trying to put out there content wise. I know people who have just created it on their own website and gone that way. And I wish I could figure out how to do that. And I'm not quite there. But it's a lot. And I like to ask questions to people who have done this. Like, I know I've asked Natasha, and I asked Kim, they were putting together the Nerd Element, and I love the way it looks. It's like, okay, I'm asking questions. I just constantly ask questions, because the only thing you don't know is what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And
I never heard
looking it up.
Yeah,
right.
First to ask is that it's okay for trial and error too. It's okay to falter along the way. That's a big thing we always preach at the library. It's okay if something doesn't go right. You know, you're gonna fail along the way, because that's how you learn, and you just get better and improve. And never be scared to ask questions.
Okay,
So,
that's really funny. I'm going to share this with you. This is something my husband actually wrote. It's kind of hard to see, but like, oh, I don't think you can see it at all right now. Look at my camera.
At all.
But he wrote me this note.
Prominently in the background.
Yeah. I was just so frustrated. Like, I could not figure out how to do something. So he left me this note. It's like, take your time. You can do this. Don't get frustrated or upset. It won't help. If it doesn't work, try a different way.
Yeah.
So I keep this right here on my desk,
nice.
so I see it. It doesn't excuse him from breaking my Harley Quinn glass, but you know, it's still, you know, something that is there.
Oh God,
and that,
yes. You said that. It's like, and there's no cons for like. Okay, great.
Forever. So we have 2 more questions. We're actually going through these pretty quickly. So
Okay.
Fun one. Someone you wish you could interview that you haven't yet. Like goals. #goals.
oh,
Look at you guys thinking. I love this.
this is like, yeah, this is like a big one. Who's like your, you know, that big fish that you want?
I have one. I'll just throw mine out there first, since we do wrestling. He's going to be on Funimation. This is all pre-recorded like a little earlier before you guys at FanFest, so we're doing things in order. So it's Hamilton Day, so this is the day.
Yeah.
But I would like to interview either Lin-Manuel Miranda, because he's a big inspiration, especially for Puerto Ricans. But I also, for wrestling and gamedoms, I like Kenny Omega from wrestling. He's actually going to be a host in Funimation Con for tonight.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely love Kenny Omega. He's in the video games. He's kind of like how I would have been if I was a male wrestler and I had a gimmick. That's who I probably would have been like, that guy.
Oh my gosh, this is like the question.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty much any since I'm a book reader, but I'm also really heavily into romance.
Okay.
I'm a geek that way. So probably Nora Roberts.
She writes good books though. She really does.
If I felt like I had to pick someone, but I also feel like there's several Black authors that I would want to eventually talk to, that I've been reading. Farah Rashan, Beverly Jenkins. She's been around for like a long time. Really, I feel like there's so many. Alyssa Cole, Talia Hibbert, and there are some fantasy authors too. If he was alive, I would have loved to have interviewed Robert Jordan, because Wheel of Time's coming to Amazon and I'm so excited. And so if he was alive, totally. Probably next thing would be his wife, since she's kind of like consulting on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, so definitely now that Wheel of Time is coming to Amazon, definitely all the actors and the producers and the showrunner.
I'll give you guys that if you can sit down with a cast.
Yeah, just send me down with the cast. Yeah. Send me down with the showrunner. I'll be happy. Yeah, that I feel like there's a lot of top tier that I would want to interview, and I hopefully that will happen. Speak it into existence. But yeah, Ashley, I feel like I took a lot of your time in there.
No, fine.
Yeah, you probably have a list too. So
yeah, I mean, right now, the two dudes that wrote the Game of Thrones TV show, because oh my god, like I liked the ending. Okay, like I thought everything that happened made sense. I understand why people did not like it.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna.
But they have taken a beating though. They have taken a beating though since then. They have taken a major beating.
Yeah, they really.
And
I was just at the finale with Ashley. This is not what you were saying at the time.
You know, I agree though. Like at the time, I was like, I was flipping tables. I couldn't believe it. But then when I sat down and composed myself, I was like, no, that makes linear sense.
Well, I didn't like this thing. I didn't like it. It's not that that didn't make sense. I didn't like that this had to happen. Even though I kind of knew some of this. I was like, you had no idea. I was like, you had to have known some of that was going to happen though. I'm like, I knew it was going to happen, but I wished it was kind of.
Oh yeah, I just. All the lines were there. I was just like, oh, why does this doesn't, I don't know. For me, it would just, I guess it makes sense, but I don't know. A lot of my coworkers.
Well, there were certain things that they did, like little things that they did earlier on, where I was like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Back around.
We're getting off on a tangent, totally, but I totally get what you're saying. Like, I get it, but I feel like because it was rushed, I just felt like there wasn't enough time. I feel like it could have been, some things could have been fleshed out a lot better.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the crux of my frustration. And
it wasn't done properly.
Right. And I felt like they just didn't care.
Yeah, because you saw the book opening and you knew what was going to happen, but then it was just like, just right in front of your face, and you're like, wait, where's the buildup? Where's the, and then I saw it kind of lack.
Yeah, like seriously, I wanted the Night King to fight somebody. I wanted him to fight either John or somebody instead of what happened. And so it was great. That moment was like, yay. But at the same time, I'm like, you've built this dude up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Total tangent.
Yeah, somebody compared them to upper management where they're just there, but they don't really do nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the Knights.
Well, he just like stood there and looked around. I was like, okay.
Like, you're posing right now.
Yeah.
He was like, we're just going to do this and everybody's going to do what I want. I'm like, oh.
Like, okay, when he was on the dragon, yeah, okay, that was fine. Because you're going against someone. You're fighting someone on a dragon. But hand to hand, yeah, you could have done more. You could have done more.
My coworkers are gonna love all this. They're on. We had a Game of Thrones like text message thread every Sunday, so like they're totally gonna appreciate this part.
and really, this is like the first time I've really like. I mean, I've voiced it, but like not on a platform like this, because again, it's been a minute since I've been podcasting. So, yeah, thank you, Ashley, for opening that can of worms.
I'm just doing my job, girl.
Okay, Ashley, I kind of started cutting you off. So who else would you interview, or is it just the dudes?
There's a lot of people. I have a whole lot of list of people, bro. I have a whole lot of list of people. I'd like to interview Kevin Costner at one point, but I'd probably pee everywhere, so I don't think that's a good idea.
I mean, there are definitely handsome guys that I would love to interview, but I feel like I would just straight up, like, of course, Chris Evans. Hello. I would totally like. I feel like I could keep it professional, but inside I would want to flirt with him so bad.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't like. It's sometimes you can't like not flirt with them. Like I met Jeffrey Dean Morgan, you know, who's Negan on Walking Dead, and oh man, I'm telling you right now, I was like, hi.
No, okay, so that's why I like conventions, because I don't really, if I'm not planning on interviewing you, I can like get an autograph or something and I can be fangirly then.
Oh sure.
And then it's okay because that's what's expected. But like, you know, when you're trying to be professional, like as a interviewer, like even though you're grassroots, you still want to
come off some way. Yeah, definitely.
You don't want to come off as like too fangirly.
Yeah,
I'm fangirling, but you're
true.
Yeah, you gotta be professional.
Momoa, and I was trying to act really professional because like I had made him something, but then he like reaches over the table to hug me in his bare like hands, Jason Momoa, and I'm just all like, and then like I'm trying not to like you know.
I would die.
I wouldn't mind interviewing John Boyega, especially lately. Like he's been doing a lot, and he's great. And I had a photo op with him when he was at Awesome Con in DC. But you know, photo ops are just quick in and out. So I would have.
They are, like seconds long. I think
seconds long. Nice, but too short. So I would love to interview him at one point. And he's such a cool dude. And you know, he's fighting for our cause. So I got nothing but love for him.
Shawn?
David Tennant would be like my big fish because it took everything. Like my picture that I have sitting here, I'm cheesing so hard. Like, and I think the only thing that really kept me was one of my co-hosts, Jess, and she had the baby with her because both our sons now have been pictured with a doctor. So we had to do it, and it's like, okay, because they're trying to get the baby to like pay attention, it kind of kept me like, okay, don't freak out. But him, Catherine Tate, and Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy, because they're, you know, they started out here.
Yeah.
In the Chicagoland area. So like I would love to interview them.
I forget about that all the time, that they started here.
I did fangirl a little bit when I met Catherine Tate again at AwesomeCon, just because she was like my favorite companion at the time.
Yes, I couldn't speak when I met her because I'm like, I love Donna.
Awesome. I loved Donna, and maybe, and I feel like the main reason why was because she didn't fall in love with the doctor, but you know, that's just me.
But what's funny is some people, when you think, okay, I really want to interview them, I think they'd be great, and then if you happen to end up in a press room where they're there, sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I can keep it professional because this is not the way I thought this was going to go at all. Yeah. So I'm grateful for press rooms that have roundtables, especially when you're starting out, because then it's not 100% on you, but you get to kind of see how they interact. Because I will tell you, I met oh my gosh, Baldwin from Firefly. I'm totally blanking on his first name. Adam,
yeah.
All I got was Alec.
He scared the bejesus out of me, and it was just, he was messing with the press table.
Okay.
But I did not realize it, and I was like, oh my god, because he's like, all right, whoever's got the best question go first, and everybody, because it was like all the first year press people, and we're all like, oh my gosh.
They were like intimidated, yeah.
Yes. And then he just like busted out laughing. I'm like, okay, that wasn't
That's
so bad.
the one thing I'm always afraid. I'm always afraid that I'm going to meet some of these actors or whoever, and they're going to be like, not what I want. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yes.
Like, so I did meet Kevin Costner once. I met him once. He was very nice. Like, he really was. And that was good. But like, you never know. Like, you never know what they're going to be like.
Just don't build it up. Like, no matter what, if this is something you're trying to do, don't build it up so much that you are so in your head. Because my first interview, which was amazing, was with Eddie McClintock. he had met Richard Dreyfuss, and that was like his, you know, his big fish. And he even said, he's like, you know, they always say don't meet your heroes because you never know what's going to happen. And he's like, he was nice, but he was like really blunt. And he's like, I was taken aback. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, you do this and you act with these people, you know, and then here I am. And then the cast of Defiance totally like bombed our, you know, photobombed our interview, which was hilarious. But I'm cracking up and I'm thinking, okay, like out here, Channel 9 Dean Richards is like the guy I want to be, you know, like he interviews everybody and I'm like, oh, he's so cool. And I could just see, like, how would he react? He probably would have kept a straight face. I'm crying because I'm laughing so hard.
But I also feel like that's genuine. I feel like there's like a fine line. Like you want to make it personable, but at the same, or more authentic, but at the same time, you still want to keep that professionalism. So when stuff like that happens, it's kind of like, okay, because you're in the moment. And maybe that's just me. And I don't know, like
approach like that, because Jimmy, when he met Lin-Manuel, he said he was nervous, and then they became best of friends because like they just all of a sudden became chill. And I think the way Jimmy, you can tell when Jimmy's fanboying over people, and he starts to get like, he gets flustered, he starts doing that stupid laugh he does when he breaks character all the time. But I think there's, like you said, there's like a line where it's okay as long as you keep the questions professional, you're moving it along, you're not badgering down. But it's okay to fan out. I think it really is, as long as you're just like not like an anime character, you know, just
the nosebleed happening.
And you don't like get like, especially if it's someone like you admired, like you're attracted to or whatever, like blah, blah. Like you think that's like super hot.
That's always my thing. I'm like, I'm totally gonna just be like, I forgot my name. Like
and it's like you can like be nervous, but you still have to like make
remember
sure you're not crossing a line that's like.
So you're saying if I interviewed Chris Evans, I shouldn't reach over and stroke his beard?
No.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
No,
that's the line.
Make sure you have a cue card with your name now.
Okay.
Or for someone to be behind me and be like, your name's Ashli. I'll be like, got it, thanks.
Yeah, no, or even like
you're like, my name is Ashli Evans.
Maybe wait till after the interview, but that would come off as creepy too. So no.
All right, we're down to our last question. Basically, we'll close it out. What are your goals that you hope to see in your podcast, and any last motivational tips, or just kind of like a little motto, keep on trucking kind of thing that you got for the podcaster, the future podcasters that will be coming out of the next generation?
Definitely be consistent.
Yeah.
If you know like what your topic is and what. Now, granted, you can change like the format or even like change a direction of a podcast, but at the same time, just be consistent. Like as how often you record and post the episodes. Just make sure you're consistent. That's definitely something that anyone would need, because if you have the audience is going to start expecting around this time, this is when a podcast will drop. One thing I will admire about the 85 South show, which is like a comedy kind of a show, they're definitely consistent. Every Friday they drop something, whether it's from a live show that they've done or something that they've recorded.
So sort of like having a TV series where it's like every week, the same time, same day kind of deal. Yeah.
Even if it's like every 2 weeks or, and that's part of the planning process. If you know your timing, because you may have a job or what have you, or if you're a kid, you're going to have schoolwork and everything. Just make sure you have that balance. Yeah. So you got to have an idea of how much time you can dedicate to this, and also being consistent.
Words of advice. I have this little bracelet that I'm actually like twirling in my hands right now. It's 2 of them. One has a word that we can't say on this podcast right now, or this panel. So keep flipping going. And it was actually an organization in Chicago. The bracelet says, it's okay to not be okay. because sometimes you are trying to just get through and do this, and there's always going to be that little negative like weed that's, you know, dug itself into your brain, and sometimes it's just really hard to get past that. And I've had days where I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think I can keep going as much as I want to. And sometimes it's my co-host, sometimes it's my husband, sometimes it's just looking at that little bracelet that just is like, you can do this. If this is what you want, do it. It doesn't matter. Even family sometimes, you know, there'll be that negative voice, and you just got to go past. Like, you know, I've done some pretty amazing interviews, at least I think so, and then I have, you know, members of my family go, oh, it's that comic book thing, you know, and just kind of dismissively wave, and I'm like, that was Sean Bean, you know.
Yeah.
I had people ask me, who's Sean Bean, which I almost died, but whatever.
Whoa. You got to interview Sean Bean?
Yeah. Sean Bean, I interviewed, I was at the table at least with Wesley Snipes. You know, I've interviewed some of these people, which I never thought I'd be in the room.
It's crazy.
I understand that completely, because like when I had that wrestling, I don't know if you saw when I had that wrestling moment where I got into a wrestling ring for AEW. It was my birthday. And I got in there with the wrestlers that I look up to, and Kenny Omega's behind me without a shirt on, so I'm trying to just keep my eye level, trying to do the guy thing, keep eye level. But he had me do a wrestling move on a guy, and I rolled him up. The owner, Tony Khan, that he owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was my referee. He owns AEW, and my coworkers understood the hype. You don't understand. I just got into a wrestling ring with thousands of people at State Farm Arena in Champaign, and I did something I never thought I was going to be able to do. You know, like, it was just a cool experience. And then they called me out saying happy birthday. My family,
yeah,
you know, and then my coworkers, I go on Facebook and I get the support from my friends. I get support from my coworkers, and they understood. To this day, they'll say, you know, don't mess with Maria. She can do a surprise roll up on you. You never see it coming because it's a surprise. And I'm just like, I hate you guys, you know, but it's that support. And I understand. And we actually had those bracelets, it's okay not to be okay at the library for a while. And a lot of like young adults took them, and teens. They were definitely something we got from organization during the Suicide Prevention Month, just to let people know that it's okay to sometimes feel like you need help, or just to have somebody to talk to. So everybody at the library wore one to let everybody know that if you have a problem and you're not okay, it was okay to talk to us. You know, it's always okay to, you know, find somebody in the library because we're an ear. But I just thought it was so cool that you actually have that bracelet, because I have one too. So,
yeah,
but,
sitting here on my desk.
Ashley, close us out on some motivational stuff. Get us.
So yeah, I mean, I think that people just have to realize to just don't give up, even if it seems like it's not going to happen. I think it was a guy that made Starbucks, that invented Starbucks, had to pitch the idea to like 239 people before it actually became a thing. And like, I noticed a lot of, just like in our generation, people try something like 5 times and then they're like, okay, it's not going to happen. And I think a lot of it is because we have like these social medias and all these things. We just think that things are supposed to happen like right now, instant gratification type thing. And obviously that's not how it works. Like even Angelina Jolie, I think she had to audition 100 times, even though her father was John Voight, I'm not mistaken, to get a role, you know? And it's like, if they hadn't kept going, we wouldn't have that. We wouldn't have Starbucks. We wouldn't have, you know, other actors, not just Angelina Jolie, but other ones that we enjoy. So I think that people have to remember that you could have something really big. You just have to give yourself a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Yay, you guys did awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Ashley. Really appreciate it. I will link anything you guys want me to underneath our description box. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on our Facebook page. You guys are welcome to share it. But thank you so much. And we hope to see you guys real soon, maybe in person next year at our FanFest. We can definitely do another podcast like this, because I think virtual podcasting and shows for FanFest and libraries and other medias, I think it's just something that's not going to go away for a while. I think this is definitely going to be something integrated into learning, into virtual teaching, into entertainment values. Like it seems like everybody's doing virtual now, and I don't see it going all the way back to in person. I still see like a fine line. So
and it's getting a lot easier too. This virtual stuff, it's getting easier because people are learning more how to do it where they didn't really have to before. I think so.
And it's easier because most of the time it's free. And you
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's more
that's cool.
accessible. That's
Yes.
the important thing.
definitely more sensible when it comes to bigger names to get people on a platform for free if it's through Zoom. So once again, thank you ladies so much. We've seen everybody keep on our Facebook page for more podcastings and more tutorials, draw alongs, cosplay. Yeah, and we have some live streams coming up very soon. So keep on our Facebook to see our schedule, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, y'all.